Hi, Jules Cruise Companion, retire at 60 or exploring Jordan with Jules, depending on which YouTube channel you've fallen on today. What I wanted to go over today is like the 28th of June 2025 and the 12-day war that America and Israel perpetrated upon Iran has been over for a few days. But what I wanted just to go over a little bit about was a lot of people have been contacting me over the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and some of them I haven't necessarily spoken to in a lot of years. Some of them I have known for many years, decades, and there is clearly an element of respect and mutual respect within this acquaintance stroke friends group, and I've appreciated every single one of those outreaches from people. I just wanted to go over one today, and this is a person who I think I've known since about 2023, and they're a person of a similar age to me, and I don't think I'm going to betray any confidentiality in relation to just reading this off my tablet. So they reached out to me this morning. My time here in Jordan would have been about 7:30, 8 o'clock. So for them in another continent, it was later in the evening. How are you today? I hope you're safe. Hi, yes, it's calmer now that the missiles have stopped going overhead. That's good. I'm still devastated that every world leader is morally bankrupt and corrupt, I say. Yes, they say, especially an oranged person in another part of the world. I go on to say, my entire life I was crafted to believe that peace, justice and goodwill to all. My entire life has been a lie. I am of British descent who was a coloniser of Australia. My life has been of subjugation and manipulation. And the response came back was, yeah, that sounds very painful. For them in another large country in the Northern Hemisphere that was supposed to be a republic, that they are scared that is turning into an authoritarian regime and may become an oligarchy. Everything is just effed up, and they perceive that it's all the orange person's fault. Hate, they express a negative response to a raping narcissistic bastard. So my response to that was, I've decided that the orange rapist isn't the problem. He is a manifestation of a disease of white supremacy, corruption and greed. If it wasn't for the orange rapist, now it would have been somebody else later. The orange rapist didn't actually get there by himself. It was the whole apparatus over decades of laying the foundations for this autocracy. Maybe from Nixon, definitely from Reagan, and maybe even earlier. They went, their ancestors were colonisers as well because of the genocide of the native population of the country that they live in. And then I go on to say, I don't want to fall down any anti-Semitic rabbit holes, but there seems to be definite actions behind the scenes. They're forces that the general public just aren't aware of. I can't decide who predicted this situation, Huxley or Orwell. They went on to say they're not happy either. Then I listed off a couple of books. 1984, The Brave New World, A Handmaid's Tale, Hunger Games, or Animal Farm. I said all of these are working manuals for the oligarchs. They went on to say that we're all vulnerable, that we should respect everybody, even those with different beliefs. and all this hate sickens them. So I went on to say, there is a line about beliefs that I can see, because it is the beliefs of these extreme people that have got us into this situation. It always seems to be, once beliefs go to an extreme, that they cross a threshold that is unacceptable. So reflecting back on the concept of free speech, they had to agree with that. But they believe that you have a right to express anything that you wish. Just don't force it upon other people and don't hurt anyone with your beliefs, which does seem like a reasonable space to be. But then I went on to say, the hate only seems to take hold on lower educated, low informed, low curiosity, intellectually stunted people. For about 2 or 3 generations in a large continent in the Northern Hemisphere, I can see a decreasing exposure to a broad education as a strategy to keep people dulled. The over-reliance on simple, patriarchal, religious narratives to keep people in line, just keep people in line. And they thought that that comment was pretty reasonable, but they went on to say that stupid people are easily manipulated, which potentially is true. They have been taken away education from people, and they seem to be succeeding. So I responded to, they believe in the rights of everybody to have free speech, and I replied to that one. Then I see that the enclaves of religious hardliners making cults where people are abused by the leaders. This is a tricky debate. So it isn't easy. It isn't easy. Everybody has a right, but once that right takes away the rights of other people, once that right of free speech takes away the rights of other people, it's not a right, it's a wrong. So I go on to say, the other thing I struggle with is, why are all rich people stupid? They are university dropouts, corrupt deal makers. The orange rapist hasn't said a cogent statement in over 30 years. Musk is a buffoon. Zuckerberg is an alien. And Thiel is demonic. They couldn't disagree with that. But I do feel lucky, I went on to say, that I was born in the 1960s. It seemed that I hit the sweet spot. I came into women's liberation and racial rights after the initial struggles, when it all seemed to be starting to hit its stride in the 1980s and 90s, before the active assault on women's bodily autonomy and the active removal from Black and coloured people from the participation in the democratic process. They agreed that the 80s was pretty good. And for me, I went on, the people that had access to a living wage during the 1970s and 80s then started decline in the 1990s and the aughts, and definitely after the 2008 GFC. I went on to say, I'd met 3 ladies cruising in 2017, and they came from a western state of a large country in the Northern Hemisphere. And they were really offended at my pro-vaccination and my anti-Trump. One of them was against my pro-vax and anti-Trump beliefs. And they have been posting on my timeline about how horrible I am as a person and how ignorant I am as a person. And that they complained that my information sources came from such a limited perspective. And they had they were offended by my broadcasting of a clip from The View where Whoopi Goldberg, not that I'm a fan of hers, actually had a very important thing to say to a Zionist who was basically saying that, you know, deaths in Palestine are really pretty irrelevant. But Whoopi brought to the attention of this woman that there are actually lynchings still happening in a northern hemisphere country. There are lynchings still happening today. So white supremacy and racism has not gone away. It is still well entrenched. And this other person who I was chatting to went on to say the Conservatives, at least what they are calling themselves, are taking away all of this person's particular rights. This person clearly has had contact with the government organisations that have allowed them to flourish to a degree up to this point. Once again, I say that they're about my age. And I say to them, how did progressivism become so demonised? And conservatives say, it's okay for me to have all the stuff, but you can't. So the person I was chatting to went on about the taking away of healthcare, SNAP benefits, food safety, and child protection, food stamps and stuff. And I went, it's a dystopian nightmare. Then they'll all want you, to sell a body part so that you can afford your own food and shelter. I said to go to their neighbours who voted for the orange rapist and ask them if they are going to support you in housing and food and all the other needs that you may have. Because I explained that with the income that I have genuinely supported groups of people, families of people, and I currently still do, because that's my personal choice. I don't put it through an agency like, Save the Children or Red Cross or anything like that. I just directly assist people. Then, coming to the end of the conversation, I said that not being able to have any support network, therein lies the problem, that I'm about to retire and that my income is going to be halved and I will not be able to offer the support to people that I do around the world to keep me sheltered, fed and safe, and keep them sheltered, fed and safe. That I, at my age, almost at 60, with a meningioma, had a stroke, got a bowel cancer, got a heart monitor in, a bad back, shitty knees, morbidly obese, I'm going to have to actually continue potentially to work, which makes me exceptionally disappointed and will emotionally and spiritually destroy me. And that's basically where the end of the conversation came this morning with this person, because they had to go and attend to their family needs. So that's some of the conversations that I've been having with people over the last couple of weeks. I'll potentially go over a conversation I had with a friend's mother, someone who I've only known on the peripheries for a very long time. But something within whatever I am saying, even though it doesn't resonate to 100% of the people that are hearing it and tell me to shut the fuck up, no, because as a legacy of my thoughts, feelings and emotion, I think it's really important that it is recorded for prosperity, that, I am a normal average person with what I perceive as normal average beliefs and morals and guidance and leadership. But it's the leaders of the world that are letting us down, and I do not know how we are going to turn the world around. I don't want to be a nihilist. I don't want to say this is the end of the world as we know it, because something is always going to improve. The end of one colonial power, the end of one empire is always followed by another. That has been demonstrated historically over the last 2,000 years. This is just the end of this empire. What will come out of it is what we are going to do, whatever we make it. It's going to be whatever we make it. Stay together, stay safe. Free Palestine. We are all Palestinians. Whatever is happening in Palestine will come to your town if you do not stand up today for the rights of others.